creative friends, my name is Joey Balestrieri. Welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. And this might look a little different because I usually start my filming right on my beading mat and start making right away. But today I wanted to chat for a few minutes before I start the projects because I have been watching the jewelry trends and I just have read a few articles, and that is what has inspired my making for today. And I want to show you what I have pulled. I have this project tray here and it is full of goodies. So that's what I do when I'm designing. I take a project tray. I actually have stacks of them. So I have like all different colors, and I will go in my stash and pull the things that I think might go into my design. Whoops, don't want to have a crash. And so that's what I have been doing for about 3 weeks, because a few weeks ago I read an article. I have my article here, so pardon me if I look away, but I want to tell you the information correctly. I read an article a few weeks ago in a publication called Women's Wear Daily, and it was talking about in Italy when Taylor Swift did her concert, her Eros concert tour there, how she has brought the craze of the friendship bracelet back. So they've been around forever, and most of you, I'm sure you know that they are really colorful, small, little, usually plastic beads. There can be beads with letters on them that you make, some kind of a word, some kind of positivity or something, and they're usually stretchy bracelets. And so Taylor Swift has been like bringing this back to the forefront of style because she's been exchanging them with fans at her concerts. And so this started a few weeks back for me because I have friends in Italy, and one of them actually is a musician who has a music school, and they were telling me about the price of the tickets to get into Taylor Swift's concert when she was in Milan a month or so, whenever it was. And so anyway, there's an Italian company, and let me just get to my notes here. It's called Collanine Colorate, and that means like colorful necklaces. And they have done a version or an inspired by those friendship bracelets, but using beautiful little gemstones and glass pearls and natural pearls and really beautiful little colorful beads. Let me see. I don't know if I can show you this, but this is just one picture from their website. I know that is probably really hard to see a screen on a camera lens, but I may even pop up some pictures when I edit the video, but they're really lovely. They're really small, very colorful. They've used some natural pearls, like some kishi pearls. And anyway, I was very inspired by that. So as time has gone on, my son has a YouTube channel for Lego, and he's part of the Lego community the way that we are part of the jewelry community. And he was telling me that the Lego people are doing an inspired by version of these friendship bracelets using Lego bricks and like the little Lego flowers that have a hole in the center. And so then let me switch to that to that page. I was reading another article today online. I don't even remember the publication. Let me get to it. That brought this up again. It's pop culture. That Taylor Swift has inspired this trend with her Eras tour concerts, and this bracelet that has been like known as sleepovers and like young girls, kind of party exchange bracelets and gifts and symbols of friendship. She has really brought this back, but it's like a pop culture thing. And I just became so interested in this because I do watch the jewelry trends, and at my age I don't jump on every trend, but I do find a lot of artistry and inspiration in them. So sometimes I'll look at something and say, oh my, that's really crazy, but there might be a design for me hidden in that trend that I can extract and do my own thing with it. And that's sort of what's happening to me with these bracelets. And it's really nice also to kind of see what's happening in pop culture if you do craft fairs or if you sell online, because then what we're making is current and it's relevant, you know. And I know for myself that as I get older, I still want to keep my sense of style. So that's, you know, kind of another reason that I read the articles and watch the trends in fashion, so that, you know, I'm up to date. And not every trend is for everyone, and some of them I look at and say, oh no, 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 no. And then there's others that I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and I really love that, and it makes me feel good. And so anyway, this article was so interesting because it was showing all of the famous people, including the royals, from the youngest to the oldest, that have been spotted wearing these style bracelets. And I thought that was so interesting. It was lovely to see like all the snapshots of the different people that under a suit, or, you know, inside a shirt with a cufflink, a little friendship bracelet was peeking out. So that was really interesting. But some people have become concerned about the plastic, because the friendship bracelets were typically plastic beads and on stretch cord. So in Europe, some people have started making another version of the friendship bracelet, but using cotton cord and linen cord and, you know, colorful threads, and doing a friendship bracelet that way, which I thought was really interesting. There's also been a lot of movie stars that have gotten onto this trend, and in their photo ops and in their lives, that people are noticing. They have stylists are noticing that they are having a friendship bracelet that's peeking out or showing up in the photographs of a lot of movie stars and famous people. So there's so many versions of this friendship bracelet, and they're changing up. And so I just am really excited about this. I think this is going to be really fun. They are not huge, this is not huge chunky jewelry. So really, with different versions, we could make it you know, for different ages. And I'm planning to do kind of a grown-up version, and I think I might even play with some different stringing materials. I'm thinking about my beloved wax linen cord, because I really love the knotting and stringing on wax linen cord. So I'm thinking to do one that way, and I'm thinking to do one on my beloved Soft Flex 49 strand bead stringing material. It's something I always work with and keep in my stash, and I've just placed an order to replenish some of my favorite colors of that from Soft Flex Company. And I am not sure if I will do a stretch version. I'm thinking about it. I haven't done stretch bracelets for a couple of summers, and it is something that I really like to wear in the summer because they're like easy on and off. I have decided to do my own version of these friendship bracelets, and it's going to be you know, my takeaway from these articles that I've been reading, and like from the Lego community, and just seeing like everyone is doing their own version with their own loves. And so I thought I would just show you a few of the things that I have pulled. So I was at the craft store, and I was thinking, again, friendship bracelets are always really, really colorful. So I got a strand of these beautiful lampwork beads, and they are so colorful, and I don't even think there's two alike on this strand. And then I did an order at Potomac Beads, and they had a little free item when you placed an order, and they sent me these check glass strands in all these different colors. So I have those in my tray, and then I have, this is so beautiful. These are dyed quartz, and they are, I will put these on my mat, but these are little rondelles, and they're all different colors, and they're very small, but it's actually dyed quartz. And then at the craft store, I also found these little copper kind of rondelles that are check glass. And what else is in my tray? Oh, I have some little rounds that are lampwork. I lost the word for lampwork. A few more colorful lampwork beads. And then I have from one of our treasure boxes recently a fire agate faceted round, and these are little 6mm beads. And so I'm going to open those up and see if I want to use those. And then I got the idea of pulling out some of my African brass. So I have these little African brass bead spacers from the bead chest. And I have just collected over the years, I've just collected some beautiful African brass beads, and more like small little spacers. And also from my stash, I have pulled out some Tibetan little beads here, and again, I'll show you these later on my mat, but I was just thinking for my pattern play, and I'm thinking that on my version of the friendship bracelet, I am going to do some blocking and use some little pieces like this to separate my color blocks. So anyway, thank you, Taylor Swift, for influencing our jewelry and our creativity. It's so great, and you know, it's nice to allow everyone to do their version and their take on the trend and on something that she's bringing back. And that is just the amazing thing about jewelry art is, you know, it's fashion, it's art, it's creativity. It can be really fun. It can be like something that we exchange with our friends. You know, it's just really a win-win-win. So let me turn the camera around, put it down on my beading mat, and cut open some of these beads. You can never design or make anything until you unleash the beads, cut them off those strands, and play with them. So I'm going to do that, and I thank you for listening and indulging my little chat, but I just wanted to share like the inspiration for these projects today, because I get a lot of questions about how do I know what to make next, or what my next video is going to be, or where do I get my ideas. And so I do walk every morning, and I'm always looking at wildlife and the trees and you know, all of the colors in nature and the different animals. In the morning, because I live around, my neighborhood is built around a lake, and we have 2 ponds. So we have a little alligator that I have been trying to get a picture of for years. I have never seen him, but my neighbors tell me that he's in our ponds. And so if I ever get a picture, it will be on my video for sure. But I see bunny rabbits and woodpeckers, and we have 2 neighborhood hawks that are amazing. And we have sandhill cranes. Occasionally I'll see a little snake on the sidewalk. And so all of those things give me inspiration. But also I watch the runway shows, and I watch the fashion trends, and I'll watch like the music world and pop culture, because ideas for creating are in all of those areas. And as I said earlier, pop culture and fashion trends and even the runway shows, sometimes they are just not, you know, they're not for everyday life. They're, you know, I'll see things on the runway that I think are so interesting and so beautiful, but I'm not going to wear that to the grocery store. Or, you know, I have a disabled child, and I'm dealing with wheelchairs and, you know, lifts and transfer boards all day long, and I'll see things, and the artistry is so inspiring and so beautiful, but that doesn't translate to like real world. But there's still a lot that you can glean from it for your own designs, and like get ideas like the shapes, the textures, sometimes even the medium. Earlier this year, I became so fascinated with feathers, because I kept seeing them in the runway shows in Milan and New York and Paris, you know, in Fashion Week. And I did a feather necklace because it just was so inspiring, and I love the necklace, and it's my take on a trend, but something you could wear in everyday life. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And so let's do a grown-up version of these friendship bracelets, and maybe my idea and my work will even give you an idea for something I didn't think of, like another version of these. And you know, we kind of keep the thread of the fact that they're usually colorful bracelets, not too large. Usually the bead, every one that I've seen, they were a little bit smaller scale bracelet, and you can stack them. So that's really fun to, if you're going to sit and make them, to make a few so you can stack them. And then you may have one, you know, that you want to take off and give to somebody when you see them. So I think this is going to be really fun. So let's turn the camera around and let's start making. So I've already made some decisions about my friendship bracelets, but I don't exactly know how many I'm going to make, because I've even gone and pulled even some more supplies from my stash. Like, let me grab a little piece of wire and show you. Let me pull the buttons out as well, because you know, when you're creating, you have to make decisions about your clasp, your stringing material. So I went into my pearl organizing bin, and I found these little freshwater pearls, and they have a decent size hole for being such a small pearl. And let's see, I also found these pearls that are like a Baroque pearl, and they're in this beautiful lustrous gold, so I don't know if they'll make it in. And then I also thought of something really special here. My mother had given me a rose quartz and freshwater pearl necklace many years ago, and then when she passed away, it was hanging on a little dress form in my bedroom for many years, and I never wore it. And so I finally cut it apart, and I've made a bracelet with it, and this is what I have left. And my mother was my best friend, so I was thinking that to put a couple of the pearls from her necklace in one of my friendship bracelets would be really sweet and meaningful. So the other thing I pulled out of my stash is a tiara cast button. I also have this vintage crocheted button with some little tiny seed beads on it. It's a little shank button that I've had in my stash for years. And I have this antique mother of pearl button with a little brass shank on it that I just think would be lovely for maybe the bracelet that has the pearls. And this is in keeping with the Italian company who's really giving the friendship bracelets a run for their money with their designs, because they do use natural pearls and gemstone beads, and you get that colorful friendship bracelet look, but a little bit of a step up with your ingredients. And then I just pulled out from my stash some small little magnet closures. One is antique brass and one is copper, because I think I'll use one maybe on the copper, and the antique brass looks so nice with my African brass. So I don't know what exactly when I get started how this will all shake out, but that is my little start of pulling supplies, and that's kind of what I do, is go into my stash with a project tray and pull this out. And you guys, this has been so amazing. You know, I'm not really on social media and I'm not much of a poster. You may have noticed that even I struggle to like keep up with posting on my YouTube community tab. But I have noticed in the news feed that I get and in my reading that this is like a really big trend right now. And like I said, I've seen it on the royal family, all ages, and it's just amazing. I even, in one of the articles I was reading, they actually have a picture of Taylor Swift with the friendship bracelets on her arm, like giving them to a young girl in her audience. And it really is a sweet thing. It's one of the sweeter things of making jewelry. So I have pulled out for stringing material this Brazilian waxed cord. This is the 0.5 millimeter, the smallest that it comes in. I have a little scrap here so I can test my hole sizes. And I just pulled 3 of the colors that are bright and colorful that I thought went well with my beads. I wish that I had a red or a burgundy, but I don't. So I'll be using these for probably 2 of the bracelets. I really love stringing with that. And the other thing I have here is my favorite bead stringing wire. This just has such an amazing feel to it. This is the Softflex Company medium all-purpose bead stringing wire, and it's a 49 strands. So that means there are 49 little strands like braided inside this colorful coating, and it is just so flexible and malleable and just wonderful. And so I have a bunch of colors. I think I have every color that they make, but I have the copper color and the garnet color because, again, with my brights and my metals, I just thought these would be pretty. So I think I'm going to do maybe 2 of my bracelets. So far, I'm thinking 2 this way and 2 on the Brazilian waxed cord, and there could be more. What happens to me sometimes, had a little spill. What happens to me sometimes when I start creating, and believe me, I'm excited about these projects because this is just wearable. It is a trend, but it is inexpensive to make, fun to make, easy. They're single line bracelets, and you can get creative with your closures. Like I've pulled out buttons and things like that. But it's wearable. Like, some trends, as I was saying in my introduction, some trends are just, pure entertainment, but they're not really for real life. But I'm so excited about making these. And so I am going to kind of move some of these things out of the way now that you have seen my ingredients. And I'm going to cut some of these open, and I'm going to pretty much do my stringing off camera. And before I close anything up, I will come back and, you know, show you what I've come up with in case you need an idea. But you know, stringing and playing with the bead patterns and colors is really joyful for me. It is so relaxing, it's therapeutic for me, and I like to take my time, and I do a little bit of on and off when I am stringing, and it would be like watching paint dry to film all of that. And you know, I don't want you to be bored and fall asleep, so I'm gonna cut a few of these just to get started on my first bracelet. And anything that I think you need to know for your own work or designs, I will make sure that I turn the camera back on. But I'm basically going to start stringing, and I am just so excited about these little rondelle beads. This is so beautiful. This is that mixed stone beads, and they're dyed quartz. There's cherry quartz in here, green spot jasper, dyed agate, and another dyed reconstituted stone that is nondescript. But these are little rondelles, and I just saw this and thought how gorgeous that would be for a friendship bracelet. And I actually love it with the African brass, and I really love it with these little pearls that I had. So I'm going to get started. Oh, and for those of you unfamiliar with Brazilian wax cord, this is a good opportunity. It has a light coating of wax, so if you just like pinch and twist, you kind of get a natural needle. And I just love stringing with it. Now you can definitely take some super glue or some clear nail polish and stiffen the ends for stringing to make it really stiff, but I never take the time to do that because, as you can see, it's just so fun and easy. So it looks like those beads will easily go on 2 strands. So I'm just going to start stringing. I think my first one is going to be on this copper. That's what I've decided. So let me get to work, and I'll just be a second for you, and I'll come back and show you what I'm up to. Okay, I am back. I have brushed my Permalac anti-tarnish coating on both sides of the little tiara cast button, and I have to tell you guys something. It is such a busy, exciting day. I took a pause from making these friendship bracelets because my closet is finished. My jewelry wardrobe is all ready for me to make a video and share with you, and I'm going to do that today. I still have to make a few labels for some of my organizing bins that are in there and do just a couple of little things, but I'm so excited for that. And then another thing is I have really exciting news, and I have an exciting video. If you guys saw my video about 2 months ago where our Orlando bead store called Bead Time was closing and it was unsure if they were ever going to reopen again, well, I found out that they are reopening, and I took a pause from this, jumped in the car, met a friend at the bead shop. They're having a big sale for their grand reopening, and I did a video for that. So all of that is happening today, and now I'm back to my friendship bracelets. So happy day, happy colorful beads, and we're off back to the bracelets. So I'm going to start with this turquoise colored Brazilian waxed cord, and I'm going to, let's see, let me show you what I did. I have about, I didn't really measure, about 40 inches. If you're not familiar with this, I'm going to do some knotting, and knotting eats up a lot of length of your cord. So I always give myself a lot of extra, and you could really use this tiara cast button either way, but I like it this way where this concave side is up. And I'm going to show you what I have done, but it's a bit long. So let me thread these 2 through the button like that, and I'm going to pull, and you'll see what I've put in the middle of this cord. It's so cute. Look at that. Isn't that the cutest thing? So I just strung 3 of the little beads in the middle, and I'm just going to tie a knot right here. And you do not need a tool to do a knotted bracelet, but I always use one. I love my precision knotting tweezer. It just has this really fine tip, and it just makes me feel like I have total control of where my knot will land. So I'm just going to come right where I want that knot to be and just grab both cords. This button, the holes in this button have a little bit of space, but I'm just going to get that tweezer tip as close as I can to the button. Can you see? Because when I pull, the knot goes right down to the tip of the tweezer, and that is, you know, nice and secure and nice and tight and exactly where I want it. And then from there, I can decide if I want to do another overhand knot to make it a little bit chunky, and I think I will do that. I just love that the color of this Brazilian waxed cord I just love that the color of this Brazilian wax cord is going to act as a design element and even a little bit of spacer. The knots will be spacers in between the beads that I select. So I just did that because I wanted to get this off my work table, and I'm going to set this here because this little pile of beads is kind of what I pulled out for this bracelet, and I want to show you the strung bracelets that I have done over here. So this one I need to share how I'm going to crimp it. I am going to use a number 2 crimp tube in a copper color and my magical crimping plier, and it will look like this on this end. So this one is just a fun little pattern where I literally did blocks of the beads. So I did a little copper block separated by a pearl, some of those little gemstone rondelles separated by one of the African brass spacer beads, and a little section here with African brass discs in between the copper, and then a whole section where I just gathered up all those pink, I think these are rose quartz, pink little rondelle beads, and I have one of the lampwork beads in between 2 of the African brass, and it just goes on like that. And that is my little colorful pattern, and really it's pattern blocks. So like here's one pattern, here's a random, here's another pattern, and that's kind of what I came up with on that. And so I do need to get out another crimp tube, but I'll show you the first one so you'll see what it's going to look like. This was the first one that I did, and it has the magnetic clasp on it, and you can see how beautiful the magical crimping plier makes those beads. And this is essentially the same thing where I did a little block of green, and I used my African brass to kind of separate my blocks. Then I picked out from my little bead strand, this little mix here, I picked out all of the hot orange colors and made a block of those. And then I created this little pattern with those pearls and the pink rondelles, and then I gathered up all of the blue sort of turquoise, and I just did that until I had my desired length, and I think it is absolutely gorgeous and just so sweet. And so I'm gonna do this one exactly the same way. Let me get a number 2 crimp tube in copper out here, and I'm actually mixing the brass and gold colors with the copper, and then the antique copper and antique brass. I'm just going to mix it all up because this is a very colorful, very colorful and not a very formal style of a bracelet, so I'm just going to go with it. So in order to do the crimp on this end, I'm going to put one of the number 2 crimp tubes on my bead stringing wire, and then make a loop and feed that wire back down through the tube. And then if it's possible, I love to get my bead stringing wire to go through a couple of beads so that when it's crimped and I'm clipping away my excess, it's down here unnoticeable, and then my loop and my clasp looks seamless, and there's nothing detracting from a professional looking finish. So on this one, it looks like it is going to be possible to get this to go through a few, maybe. Let me try. And let me see what I can do with this, and then I'll show you feels like it should go. It's going through that one. I'll show you on the other bracelet. I finished in my bead pattern with a bead that the hole was too small and you could not feed it. It looks like it does. It looks like it only wants to go through this little check glass bead, and that's okay. Let me set this aside. That happens sometimes. I just do that when it's possible, and even one bead, I'll take it, because that will mean that I can trim away my excess away from my clasp. And what I try to do is make this loop match the size on the other end. So that's pretty good. And then also, I don't want a stiff bracelet. I don't want it to be rigid. And I know it's difficult with the camera to see, but it feels like it's not loose enough. And let me show you this one. So see how malleable and how this will flow nicely around the body. And I'll just show you on this one, I could not feed the wire back down through because the holes were too small, and on this side I was able to. So I just do that where possible, but you still get a really beautifully finished bracelet either way, but it's just a detail, and I try to do that. So that that already feels better. I just like back this up a little bit and just make sure that I don't have a rigid bracelet, but by the same token, I don't want to have too much space. I don't want to have gaps in between, in between my stringing. So now I'm going to take the single well or divot in this plier and fit that tube in there, and just take your time. There's a little learning curve with this for sure. Like just now I could feel that tube has fit inside the space, and now I will close it. And like if you're working with seed beads or smaller beads, it is good to go slowly so you don't chomp down and break your last bead. And then when I take the plier away, can you see that the four corners of that tube are pinched? And then I'm going to fit it in the opposite direction, and I can feel that it's sitting right in the middle of that divot, and now I close it in that direction and just maintain its position in the well, and just open and close the pliers. And you can either turn your work or the pliers, whatever's easiest. I think I normally end up turning my work, but it depends on the piece and how big it is. And when I take the plier away, I have this perfect little bead. It's such a nice finish, so professional. A non-jewelry maker cannot really tell how this bracelet is held together. Whoops, cannot cut with chain nose pliers. And then I'm just going to get my cutters in here as close as I can and snip. And so I have another beautiful bracelet that can be stacked with this one, and I'm going to use this antique bronze. And I made this is the copper, kind of an antique copper, and I made some antique bronze jump rings out of 20 gauge wire, and I also made some copper ones. And on this one I think I'm going to use the copper. As I said, I'm alternating and mixing these metals in these bracelets, and I'm making them with the idea that I can stack them or just wear one, or even put one on the side that I wear my watch. And I'm really enthused about making these, so I'm probably going to do a couple of extras to have to give away. I love magnetic clasps, but not when the pliers are in the picture. As soon as you get it together and get the pliers out of the way, they're really nice. And so I'm just going to do the exact same thing on the other end. Okay, so 2 of my strung bracelets are done. They are just lovely. I really love the way they turned out. They're so beautiful. They're pretty together. They're pretty alone. I'm going to set these over here, and we're going to go back to this little situation. So I have started here, and these are the beads that I think I'm going to be using in this pattern. I went up to this little bit larger size lamp work, and I've also made, I don't know, yeah, I'm in the camera. So I've also made another little selection here with the Tibetan pieces of metal that I had, and a couple, when I cut the strand, a couple of blue, the pearls that my mother gave me in that necklace, this beautiful vintage button, and I pulled out some more gemstone beads because the Italian company that's doing their version of these friendship bracelets is using these types of pieces in their pieces, and I really like that. As I said, I think it's a grown-up version of the little plastic, you know, happy little plastic bracelets, but a more grown-up version. So I am just going to start stringing. I have some spacers out here. I have some of these copper beads. I may, you know, when I get going, I'll decide if I want to mix in the copper with the antique brass or not. So let's see, let's start out with, I pulled out these green gemstone beads, and I'm not sure if both strands, oh, they do. Look at that. It's so gratifying when both of your strands fit through your cord. So I'm just going to bring that down like that. And now here's where you can decide if you want to do a knot in between every single bead. That gives you a really malleable, really fluid bracelet, or if you want to do like some little patterns and do a knot in between. And I kind of think I'm going to do a little of both on this. So I'm going to add in one of these little disc spacers, and I'll show you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do most of this also off camera because it's so fun and so relaxing, but it is so repetitive because you're just literally putting on beads and making a little pattern and putting a knot in, and I use my knotting tweezer the way that I showed you, and I will just repeat till I reach my desired length. And then I have to make a decision about the closure on this because I need something to loop over my button when I get to the end, and it could just be the cord just with like a little series of knots. That's really pretty and really colorful and really in keeping with an, you know, updated friendship bracelet. So I may do that, but sometimes I also go into my seed bead stash. I'll see when I get, that's the joy of it, when I get to the end of my pattern, I'll see how everything looks and then decide. So I had 4 of these in the bead mix that were these pretty green faceted gemstones, and I'm going to do just like that, put an overhand knot just like I did before, and reach through the loop and get that bead right where I would like the knot to be, and then when I pull, that knot goes right to the tip of the tweezer, and then I can remove the tweezer and use your tweezer or your finger, whatever feels comfortable. You'll get your rhythm and place the knot. And so the beginning of this is strung, and now I think I'm going to switch to this African bead, but I can already see that the hole on this is pretty large, so I may have to do a double knot. Let me see. Yes, see how my knot went right inside, and I really want to see the cord in between, so I either need to put some kind of a little bead there, but I think generally it looks good just to make a nice thick knot. And here you can also do like a resurgence knot where you loop it once and then loop it again. And here's where a knotting tweezer really comes in handy. I'm going to reach inside that double loop, and I'm going to grab the knot that I already made with the tweezer, and then when I pull, I have control of all of those threads going right down to where I want them to be, and that gives me a nice, okay, had to take a phone call, and it did give me a chance to kind of look, and I still feel like, even with the really chunky knot, I still feel like it's slipping inside my African bead. And I really like this check glass kind of not super shiny gold. These are gold, they're just called gold, but it's not a gold with a lot of flash. It's kind of a matte gold, And so I'm going to see, these are 11 O's. I'm going to see, I might need to go up to an 8-O. Let me see if that, no, that works as a little stopper. Now I just have to see if I can fit it onto both strands, because I really want it on both strands. I don't need many yet. It works. It will go. So I think that little seed bead is going to be really good in color and kind of act as a stopper, because I really do want to see the color of my cord on either side of this bead and in between my other beads. So let's see if that worked. Beautiful. That's absolutely perfect. Unobtrusive, but it's doing a little job. So I love that. And I'm going to repeat the same thing. Put another bead here and then do that surgeon's knot. And I'm going to continue kind of creating a pattern. I'm going to see if I want to use this other African brass bead in this design or simply keep the one. You know, I kind of get a feel. I have so many years of interior decorating and looking at colors and the scale of things and the composition of things, everything from flowers to pictures to, you know, sofa and bed pillows. And it really does translate into my jewelry art, because I just kind of get a feel. I look at things almost as if it were a musical composition or a, you know, poetical composition. I know that might sound crazy, but that's kind of how my brain works. But anyway, I am going to continue doing exactly what I am showing you, and I will pause, and then it'll just be a second for you. When I have these knots all in here, I'll show you what I have. As always happens with me when I am stringing and knotting and working on patterns like this, I continue to design. I'm really in the creative zone. So I have already decided on another knotted bracelet here, and then I'll do this one. But this guy is pretty much finished, and I absolutely love it. I love, do you see how this is so soft and flowing? The Brazilian waxed cord just is one of the loveliest stringing materials. It's one of my absolute favorite things. So what I have done here is I really liked the gold seed beads, this kind of matte gold. I think it's so pretty. You know, they're the same ones that I used as a bead stopper, or as a bead stopper. And so what I've done is just strung on enough, and I'm not going to make them super tight, but I just need to get a loop that is big enough to go over this button and then over my little cluster, and I think that's going to be perfect. And I kind of incorporated a little bit of everything that's in all the friendship bracelets. So I reached for a few of these raspberry colored gemstone beads, and I love the way you can see the designs on the lampwork disc beads with the African brass discs in between. You can really see the beauty in the glass. And so this is again the blocking where I have those green faceted gemstones, and it's just separated by a little bit of brass. So what I'm going to do here is get a knot around the knot that's already existing and just make this as tight as I can. So again, the knotting tweezer can really help get this into place. And what I usually do is kind of make my first loop and don't really commit to it right away. I just kind of like, well, I just untied my loop. But what I do is get it kind of where I want it to be. And before I tighten it down, I take a really good look and check my spacing. And the reason I'm doing this one this way is usually I would maybe add some beads or some kind of a little dangle onto my cord. But on these friendship bracelets, they are really not known for having charms and dangles and floofies, and I think I'm going to leave them all just plain line bracelets because the beads are so colorful, and I have chosen such unique shapes and closures that I think they just do a good job, you know, just without added things. And I have added a little bit of texture with the African brass and, you know, kind of stringing some little lampwork beads through my buttonholes. So I only have one knot in there, and I did tighten it, but this way I can have a good look and make sure that my closure is good, and it does. It looks amazing. Look at this sweet little bracelet, and look how beautifully it will stack with my other bracelets. So you could wear one or all, or just choose 2 or 3. I'm going to have a stack of 5 when I'm finished. So what I'm going to do now is add another knot for security, and you don't really have to, but I tend to always put a little dab of beater's glue in my knots. So I'm going to separate my cords and just do a couple of knots this way, and just until I'm happy with the look, and then I'll trim away and put a dot of glue. And then I have pulled out another button. I'll show you for the other bracelet. Let's see, does that feel pretty good to me? I'm gonna loop around just one last time. So I just keep tying until I'm happy with the thickness of the cords, and I don't want a tangled mess, so just work it down with my fingers. And like I said, I don't want my seed bead loop to be too tight. I don't want the beads to be rigid, but I'm really happy with the way that looks. I can see the color of my thread, and it's a good idea not to trim until you've put your glue and let it dry. So I'm going to use a little bit of GS Hypo Cement, maybe. Let's see. I ordered this tube from Amazon, and it had leaked in the shipping, but I was able to get it open and everything. So let's see how it's doing. Okay, it has a really, really nice precision tip, but as soon as you take that little needle, that little post out, the glue starts flowing. You don't even need to squeeze the tube on this. And I'm really just going to concentrate the glue right there where I'm going to cut. And it doesn't take that long to dry, but you do want to get your needle back in right away. Okay, I'm just going to set this aside to dry and start this one, and it's going to be the same thing, but what I wanted to show you is the mail came today, and I have done an order of check glass buttons from Dollar Bead Club, and I'm going to unbox them when I show you what I got at bead time, but they are amazing, and I just love this little check glass kind of crinkle button in orange with an Aurora Borealis finish on it, and I just think this orange is going to be beautiful with the copper beads. And I wish you guys, some of you were here to give me your opinion, because I pulled out a few of these like Baroque pearls, because since I have pearls in this bracelet and pearls in the other 2 small ones, and because I want these to have all the same elements, I don't know, when I start stringing, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, to add pearls, these really Baroque, uneven, kind of, you know, very organic pearls to this mix of beads. But when I start stringing, I will make that decision. So this is going to be exactly the same thing, where I have the same length of cord. I got my length really good, and this time I am going to put, I think, a few of the little gold seed beads to cover my buttonholes. And the only reason I'm doing that, if I had a different color cord that would really show, I would probably just let the cord show through the buttonholes, because I really do like that. But I'm going to be mixing gold and copper in this, so I decided to just thread on maybe just 3 of these gold seed beads, and you know, just adds a little embellishment. Okay, so same thing as I did on the other. Feed this down through the hole. And then I don't want to get it tangled up, but I want to get the button and the seed beads to the middle of this cord, and just pull it. And see, it looks really nice. It kind of looks like the center of a flower. I like it. So I'm going to be doing the exact same thing on this one that I did on the last one, just creating those knots using my knotting tweezer and creating a pattern with the lampwork beads that I have left, out here and deciding on what I have left of my African brass and just make like another really sweet design. So that is the start, and I'm going to get going on this. What I found was that these lampwork beads, even the small ones, have really big holes, and I needed to do larger knots, but it's really nice because I can fit 2 strands through. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start stringing, and I'll pause and come back and show you what I come up with. I did decide to use the pearls, and I really love them. I think they are beautiful and fresh, and they kind of break up the colorfulness of the lampwork beads because they're really busy beads with the stripes and all the color variations. But you know, pearls are notorious for not having big holes, and so what I had to do is put 1 strand through the pearl and let 1 strand hug the outside, and then go ahead and do my knot as normal, and I love it. I think it just looks so amazing, and it really shows off the cool shapes of these natural pearls, and I just really love it. So that's where I am at. And when you do that, let me see if I can show you. I'm still going to reach inside the loop and do the same thing. I'm going to grab the 1 strand that's on the outside of the pearl and the strand that's coming out of the pearl and pull, and I still get really perfect placement of my knot, and it also holds them in that kind of position, so you really see the beauty of the shapes. I'm just loving it, and I'm using my finished bracelet as my guide for my length because it was perfect. And you know, as I said, when I'm stringing and knotting, I do make design decisions, and I did decide that I love this African brass sort of coin shaped bead with the sun in the middle. So I'm going to keep going, and I will finish to my desired length and be back. So this little pattern is completely finished, and essentially I did the same thing where I just did little blocks of beads and, you know, kind of spaced them out with those pearls. I really love the way it looks, and I love keeping the loop consistent. And I put glue on this knot, and it should be dry enough now to trim away my Brazilian cord. And I'm going to jump right into my last friendship style bracelet. I just love the way these look. I think I could wear all of them at one time. They're just so happy and interesting and highly textured, and I just really love them. So, I mean, they just look so cute in my bowl. So what I'm doing on this one is this vintage antique. I think this is over 100 years old. I've had it for a very long time, and I bought it at an antique auction when I was a teenager. So I have had it for a very long time, and I think I'm going to do the loop for it the same way that I did the others. And I really love these raspberry gemstone beads. There's a little bit of color variation in them, and I've also got some of this same kind of matte gold. They just call it gold, but it's not a super shiny, flashy gold, and I really like the way it looks with the African brass. So I'm going to dump those out here, and as I showed you, I'm going to be using this garnet. Garnet, is that? Yes, garnet 49 strand soft flex bead stringing wire, and I have some of the African brass disc spacers, some Tibetan charms. These are so cool. I got these at our local bead shop. I don't even know how many years ago, and I've had them in a little jar, and I've decided that I'm going to use them on this. And I also have a few more of those faceted gemstones, and I just kind of chose the colors. There are 6 of them, and a little bit of lamp work and a little bit of pearls, and so we'll see. Obviously, I have way more beads out here than I will need for a 7-inch bracelet, but I love choices. So I'm going to start this one off with a number 2 crimp tube. Okay, so this one's going to be a bit different in that I am going to put my crimp tube on, and then I'm going to feed my wire through the shank of this button. And normally I like to do this with a jump ring, but I think I'm going to be happy with this one just connected directly to the button. So I'm going to feed that crimp tube down, and I don't want to make the loop so tight that my button doesn't move freely, but I'll just fit that tube in my plier, and before I close down, I'm just going to use it to pull it a little bit tighter so the loop is just a bit smaller. Can you see? Okay, and now I'm just going to do that same thing. Close. I've pinched all 4 corners of the crimp tube, and now just fit it in the opposite direction. You can feel that it's right in the center, and now I close in that direction, and then just open and close and go around until I don't feel that the magical crimper is doing anything. And it doesn't really take that many turns. And if you take it away and you're not happy with your bead, that one's really good. But you can always, you know, fit it back in and go around a little bit more. But I don't need to. This one is lovely. And now I'm just going to start my stringing pattern. And as before, if it's possible to fit my end of wire through a few beads, I will do that. So let's see, what do I want to start with? Maybe 3 of these gold beads. So that's nice. The wire fits nicely through there. And then let's see, maybe one of these raspberry beads with a disc in between. I'm going to go ahead and trim this wire right here because it doesn't want to go through that second bead. But it's really in a great position because it's hiding through my first part of my pattern. So it's already looking great. I hardly have anything on. And let's see, I think I will start with a pearl here. Oh, pearls are notorious for not having very large holes. So I may have to go through and choose the ones that will fit on this wire, but that looks so good. And let's see, I think I'm going to go right away into this Tibetan finding. Oh, look at that, you guys, it's so pretty. And then switch to these faceted agate beads. And here I have to decide if I want to just do these smaller beads as spacers. You take a look, I'll put a couple on. So for me, as you know, if you've listened to me before, I love this part. I just love this process of stringing and pattern play and the kind of on and off until I get it looking the way I want it. And oh my goodness, I love this. I already love it so much. This is absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. So pretty. So I'm going to continue into my desired length, and I believe I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did on these bracelets, is make a loop of seed beads that will go over this button as my closure, and I'll do another magical crimp so it will have that tiny little bead as the finish. And my 5th bracelet at that point will be done. So I'm going to continue, just be a second for you, and I'll be back to show you the outcome. Okay, so what I am doing is trying to get my loop of seed beads the right size and, checking before I commit to the crimp, but I don't have enough on there. It's going to be a struggle and glass bead against mother of pearl button, but it's really nice that all of the beads on the end of my pattern, the bead stringing material does go back through. So I'm going to back this out and I'm going to add just 2 and see how that works. So if you're going to try this method and you've never done it before, let me just back this up. When you're finished with your pattern, which this is what mine looks like, I opted for just 3 of those little flower charms strung right onto the bead stringing material. And I did the same thing that I've been doing in all of these colorful bracelets, is just doing blocks of beads, and just spacing them out with either metal or pearl. And so when you get to your desired length, then you want to feed on your crimp tube, and then the amount of beads that you need to comfortably slide over your closure. And then I'm just going to feed this wire through the crimp tube. So I'm making a seed bead loop here and just feed it back down through all the beads that I can. I usually try to do, you can see it peeking out there, I usually try to get as far away from where I'm going to crimp as I comfortably can. It just, to me, it looks nicer to have your bent end. So that's all I'm doing is feeding. I didn't finish my sentence. It looks nicer not to have your bent end, your cut end, I meant to say, kind of down here away from your closure. So I'm just going to pull and make sure that before I crimp this, I will do that same thing and just check and make sure that I don't have any weird gaps in my bracelet, but that it is also kind of malleable. So that looks really, really great. The seed beads are sliding nicely on and off of that button. I'm just going to go bead by bead and just make sure that there's nothing rigid, especially when you have like a bead like this that's long. It does need a little bit of space to kind of go around the body. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to come in with the magical crimper. And this time I do want to be super careful that I am not chomping down on any of those seed beads. So I'm just going to do the same thing you have seen me do on all of these other bracelets. I had to pause what I was doing and charge my phone battery. So while I was letting it charge a bit, I just clipped away my excess wire here and strung this. And I did take that same Permalac that I showed you before and I brushed it over this little piece of Tibetan metal and also this little cluster of flower Tibetan metal, and it's dry. It dries really quickly. I did not do my African brass. I kind of like the patina that's on that, but this friendship bracelet is done. I did not end up using the strands from Potomac beads, but I could keep going. I mean, these would be perfect for another version of a colorful friendship bracelet. And if I didn't mention, I was using this fire agate mix. They are faceted rounds, 6mm, and these were in our Potomac treasure box either this month or last month, and I didn't use them in those projects, but they sure came in handy. Let's see, I didn't put one on here, but that's what I used on this bracelet with the pearls from the necklace that my mother gave me, and I just love it. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I think this is something that I will wear a lot. When I do these little charms like this, it looks a bit like it won't really work, but when this is on the body, your arm holds them in place so that you can really see them, and it kind of looks like a dimensional bead. So I'm thrilled with them. Let me take them all out. I love having mixed the the medium, the Brazilian waxed cord with some of the bead stringing wire, the 49 strand bead stringing wire, and I love mixing the clasps, the magnetic with the buttons, and they're just beautiful. So I have like a stack of 5 here that I can wear individually or together, or you know, stack it with other things. And I may even give a couple of these away if I have a friend that, you know, says, oh, I like your bracelet. I love to be able to do that, to say, oh, I made extras, here's one for you. And all of my friends, actually all my beading friends actually do that. It's so sweet when we go to a bead show, everyone brings, you know, what they've been working on. So I will put some pictures up at the end of the video. I thank you so much for watching today. I hope you got some inspiration. I really was inspired by the Italian company that I showed you the pictures of, the Colonnine Colorate, and I just think that my version is right in lockstep with what I saw on their website, and I'm really happy with it. And I thank them for the idea of mixing the pearls in with the stones. You know, it's just lovely. And I just think that this sort of international vibe with the African brass, and you know, these lampwork beads are from India, and some of my things are from the Czech Republic, and you know, I just think it's very like international friendship. I just really love it. These bracelets just make me so happy. So I will put some pictures up at the end. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and tap the bell notification. And it's always my hope that you picked up a tidbit of technique or inspiration from one of my designs, and you'll make it your own. So take care, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Ciao, creative friends.